Ever catch yourself scrolling through those, like luxury real estate listings? The ones with infinity pools overlooking like the entire coastline.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in those daydreams.
It certainly is.
Well, today we're diving into a real estate concept that takes that whole dream home thing to a whole other level. We're talking Canada's Platinum Belt.
Okay.
And we're dissecting this real estate blog, Platinum Belt Real Estate. They've got some interesting takes on this, like very specific slice of the luxury market.
And it's fascinating how this blog really hones in on a very particular clientele. This isn't just about, big houses. This is about cultivating an aura of, exclusivity.
Oh, absolutely. Like they've stumbled onto this hidden gem and they're giving us a little peek behind the curtain. But before we get too far, let's back up a bit. Geographically speaking, what are we even talking about when we say Platinum Belt?
Picture this. Prime real estate, right on the shores of Lake Ontario in southern Ontario. Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington. These are the core cities that, according to this blog, make up this Platinum Belt.
Okay.
And they really emphasize the seamless transition between these cities. It's like one big, luxury corridor.
So less about distinct towns, more about this like continuous flow of high-end living.
Exactly. You've got Lake Ontario naturally bordering the region to the south, and then major streets like Rebecca and New Street kind of defining that northern edge.
It's like they've literally drawn a line on a map and said, boom, this is it. This is the Platinum Belt.
Pretty much.
I can already see the real estate ads. Platinum Belt, where million-dollar views meet, million-dollar homes.
Right.
But why even bother giving it this, like, catchy name? Who are they trying to reach with this whole Platinum Belt idea?
That's where I think the marketing savvy comes in. They're addressing a real challenge that a lot of, especially international buyers, face. They might not be familiar with the local geography, the little nuances of each town.
Right. So instead of trying to explain every neighborhood,
Yeah.
they're packaging it all up into this unified concept.
You got it. It's about creating an identity, something aspirational.
It's like how Silicon Valley immediately makes you think tech, or the Hamptons equals like beachfront mansions. They're going for that same kind of instant recognition.
Precisely. They even draw a direct comparison, Los Angeles's Platinum Triangle.
Ah, the land of Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So they're aiming high then. They want to be mentioned alongside these like global luxury destinations.
Yeah.
But what makes this Canadian Platinum Belt so special? Why even make that comparison?
Well, the blog points to a few factors. For one, having this continuous stretch of luxury properties right there on the lakefront, that's pretty rare, even in Canada.
It's like, you've made it, but even then, there's another tier.
Exactly.
And that exclusivity is, it's got to be part of the appeal.
Absolutely. And then there's the lifestyle. Burlington, Oakville,
Yeah.
They consistently rank really highly on all those best places to live lists.
Yeah.
The blog talks about how renowned architects and designers are everywhere there. So there's a real sense of a particular aesthetic there.
And they even go as far as to compare Oakville to having like a Beverly Hills lifestyle.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's a bold statement.
It is.
What does that even mean, a Beverly Hills lifestyle?
Yeah.
Are we talking like Lamborghinis in every driveway? Or is it more, I don't know, a little more understated than that?
I think it's an interesting question
Yeah.
because it really speaks to this idea that a certain lifestyle can, transcend just, having a lot of expensive things.
Right.
It speaks to a certain level of affluence.
Sure.
But I think more than that, it's an atmosphere, a culture of exclusivity.
So it's not just the mansions, it's the vibe.
Exactly.
But I imagine location plays a huge role too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because while they're really playing up this idea of like secluded luxury,
Right.
the Platinum Belt, it's not that far outside of Toronto.
Okay.
In fact, the blog actually highlights the proximity to a global hub like that.
Yeah.
But you still have that tranquility,
Yeah.
that exclusivity.
It's like having your cake and eating it too, I guess.
Yeah.
You can be in the city, at the opera or whatever, and then zip back to your quiet waterfront.
Right.
But let's be real, calling it the Platinum Belt,
Mm-hmm.
like, that seems pretty intentional.
It does.
Like they're really trying to, I don't know, will this luxury brand into existence just by calling it that.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head
Yeah.
because the blog even acknowledges that Platinum Belt is as much about branding as it is about the actual location.
Right.
So they're really trying to, by using this term, elevate the whole area's, I guess, image
I'm joking.
for locals and international buyers alike.
It's amazing what a name can do, you know?
It is.
Like, think about, like, wine.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you could have a bottle with some fancy French name
Right.
that people think is like the height of sophistication, even if, you know, it's the same grapes as your neighbor's backyard.
It's all about perception, isn't it?
Totally.
Especially with something like this, luxury real estate.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Platinum Belt, it evokes, you think prestige,
Right.
exclusivity, aspiration even.
Right, right.
So they're crafting a whole narrative around it before, a single thing is even built.
It's like, this isn't just a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a whole lifestyle.
Exactly.
And probably a very expensive one.
And a highly sought after one.
I'll bet.
Because Canada in general, it's attracting a lot of attention these days.
I can imagine.
A lot of affluent individuals, families from all over.
Yeah.
And I think the Platinum Belt is really kind of, trying to capitalize on that trend.
Right. But then doesn't that kind of, I don't know, when you hyper-focus on, this very specific demographic,
Yeah.
are there any consequences of that for everybody else?
Yeah, it's a really good point.
I mean, does it help the surrounding areas or does it kind of cause more of a divide?
I think that's an insightful question. And it's something that, there's not a simple answer to.
Yeah.
Because you could argue that, if you have all this wealth and investment concentrated in one area, that can kind of boost everybody up, right?
Right, like a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing.
That's the idea anyway.
Yeah.
But you could also argue that it just pushes everything else further out of reach.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people are struggling with,
Yeah.
Is it actually going to lift everyone up, or is it just going to create more inequality?
It's almost like, that little saying, location, location, location.
Right.
But it takes on this whole other meaning when we're talking about these like really exclusive markets.
Yeah, it's not just about finding a good spot for your dry cleaner anymore.
Exactly.
This is, next level.
It really makes you think about, I don't know, the impact these kinds of trends have on everybody.
Absolutely.
Like, it's easy to get swept up in the luxury of it all, but
It is.
there's a lot more going on beneath the surface,
Yeah. And I think that's really important for us to remember. It's not just about these, these multi-million-dollar homes.
Right.
It's about how these trends actually end up shaping the communities around them.
Yeah, and what that means for everybody who lives there, right?
Exactly. It's not just about the people who can afford to buy into it.
Right. It's about the whole ecosystem.
And it makes you wonder, too, as these trends continue, what are the long-term effects going to be?
That's a good question, and I don't know if we have the answer to that.
I don't think so, not yet anyway.
But it's definitely something to, to keep in mind.
Absolutely. And I think that's really what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Get people thinking about these things.
Right. Peel back the layers a little bit.
Exactly. Because it's easy to, just look at the surface.
It is.
But there's always more to the story.
And I think that's what makes these conversations so interesting.
Me too. It's about looking beyond the obvious and asking those deeper questions.
Well said. Well said. And on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And given everyone listening, I think plenty to think about.
I hope so.
So until next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.